Hello and welcome to Text Evidence with Inferences. Today, you can hopefully draw accurate conclusions and inferences from the text and support your answers and inferences with several pieces of evidence from the text. Let's start by reading a story together. I will model my thinking as we go through the story. In ancient Greek myth for kids, King Tantalus. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there lived a king named Tantalus. Everyone in his kingdom, including his wife and son, thought he was the most wonderful man in the world. Everyone believed he was a very good king, concerned about his people and their needs. But the truth was, King Tantalus was just plain rotten. He put up a good show, but inside, he was evil. This paragraph really makes me think about how people can behave differently on the outside, but mean different things on the inside. So that kind of sets me up to know that I should be looking for some hints or clues throughout the story of what mean or rotten things he'll do. King Tantalus could care less about his wife or his son or his people. The only thing King Tantalus cared about was himself. He thought his wife and his son and his people were stupid. He thought of himself as the smartest man in the world, much smarter than most of the gods, quite possibly smarter than all of them. Everyone in his kingdom believed there was no way to trick a god. Everyone knew gods were all-knowing. Everyone, that is, except King Tantalus. Ooh, this part right here where he said that he felt he was quite possibly smarter than all of them in reference to the Greek gods, that really makes me think that he's about to plan something. And now everyone else seems to know that the gods are all-knowing and that they would probably figure this out. Now, this does not bode well for King Tantalus because he does not seem to understand this concept. King Tantalus decided to trick the gods into doing something embarrassing, something they would never do, something they would never want anyone knowing about. That would prove he was smarter than any god. King Tantalus knew there was one thing that the gods would never do. They would never eat human flesh. He was sure of it. Otherwise, there would not be any people left on earth. Oh, this is dastardly. This really does show how rotten or evil King Tantalus is, because his whole plot now is to get the Greek gods to eat human flesh. Okay, that's just gross. That tells me a lot about King Tantalus. King Tantalus decided to invite some of the gods to dinner. For the main course, he had his own son killed and made into a stew. If the gods were all-knowing, they would not eat it, and no harm done. But if they did eat the stew, King Tantalus could reveal the secret ingredient and blackmail the gods forever into giving King Tantalus everything he wanted. He knew the gods would never want a mere mortal to show the world how stupid they really were. Wow, King Tantalus is evil. He had his own son killed and then made into this stew. And he really thinks that he can blackmail the gods? I'm wondering just how, if he thinks they're so stupid, how stupid is he? If the gods refused to be blackmailed, he would threaten to tell his kingdoms the gods had killed his son and made him into a stew. He knew the people would believe him. They always believed him. No one would leave offerings for the gods after that. King Tantalus was so delighted with his idea that he giggled and chuckled and laughed about it for days. The people were pleased to see their king so happy. Oh, so again, we're getting more evidence of how rotten he is. He's giggling over this idea that he's come up with. And he truly believes that he can convince his people into believing him. I wonder what will happen. When the gods came back to dinner, they knew right away what King Tantalus had done. First, they brought his son back to life, stronger and more handsome than ever before. Then they punished King Tantalus by planting him firmly in the royal garden, next to an apple tree. The gods enchanted his feet so he could not move. They also enchanted the apple tree. Every time the hungry King Tantalus reached for an apple, the apple tree moved the branch just out of reach. Oh, this seems like a very fitting punishment for the king. First of all, how wonderful for his son to be brought back. That sounds pretty good. I'm glad he didn't get the raw end of the stick there. And then Tantalus has got a lot of punishment going on. He can't move his feet. There's an apple tree, and every time he reaches for the apple tree will move the branch just out of reach. That's telling me that he's going to be hungry for a long time. Word soon spread about the kingdom. Anyone who wanted could peer over the garden wall and see King Tantalus stuck in the ground. The people were upset, no one more than his wife and son. But as more and more stories of the rotten, ugly things King Tantalus had done came to light, the people turned their backs on their royal gardens. No one came to the king's rescue. King Tantalus slowly withered away. Oh, this is really interesting. The people were upset, and no one more so than his wife and son. Oh, I could see why they would be very upset. But this seems to be a common theme, that as the stories of the rotten, ugly things the King Tantalus had done came to light, people just didn't want to help anymore. They didn't even go to the gardens. They didn't want to see him. And here where it says he slowly withered away, well, he must be dying from starvation because he can't reach any food and he's stuck in that spot. And if no one is helping him, then definitely soon death. Based on the story of King Tantalus, I can infer that people can hide their true nature. I also might go so far as to say karma/comeuppance, a punishment or fate that someone deserves, occurred in this instance. For the story of Apollo and Cassandra, think about what inferences you can make. We'll check your comprehension at the end of the story. Apollo and Cassandra. Each temple in ancient Greece was dedicated to only one god. Because the Greeks worshipped many gods, there were a great many temples in ancient Greece. Every town had several temples. The most famous temple dedicated to Apollo was the temple at Delphi. That temple was the home of Apollo's special oracle, a young woman Apollo had gifted with the ability to see the future. Apollo could do things like that. Apollo enjoyed visiting the temple at Delphi. He enjoyed visiting all the temples that had been built in his honor. One day, he heard about an especially splendid temple that had been built in the city-state of Troy. This temple was also built in Apollo's honor. The most interesting thing about this temple to Apollo was that the city-state of Troy was not located in the Greek peninsula. Troy started in an ancient Greek colony and was on a different peninsula entirely. One day, Apollo decided to swing by and take a look at the temple at Troy for himself. As the story goes, Cassandra was not an oracle. She could not see into the future. She was a beautiful young priestess with great ambition. When Apollo swung by personally to take a look at his temple, all Cassandra saw was his beauty and his power. She gave him a saucy grin. Apollo was delighted. Like all the gods, Apollo was very fond of making deals. He offered a deal to Cassandra. If she would give a kiss, he would give her the gift of prophecy so she could see into the future. Cassandra did not hesitate. She took the deal. As soon as she was able, she looked eagerly into the future. What she saw made her gasp. She saw Apollo helping to destroy her beloved city of Troy, so she spit in his face. Apollo was angry, of course, but he could not take away his gift. He could only add to it. That's how his power worked. That's exactly what he did. He added something to his gift. From that time on, Cassandra could see the future, but no one believed a thing she said. That's what Apollo had added. Sometime later, when Cassandra warned her people that the wonderful wooden Trojan horse the Greeks gave Troy was full of Greek warriors hidden inside, warriors who would destroy the city, the people of Troy did not believe her. They did not even look, and that was the end of Troy. Analyzing questions. Let's see what you were able to get out of this story. Cassandra's reaction to Apollo's gift of foresight suggests that she felt. Why was Apollo's gift such a burden to Cassandra? Pause if you need more time. Make sure to go back into the text and highlight where you were able to figure out your answers. Where is your text evidence found? The story of Apollo and Cassandra suggests that the Greek gods were. From the whole story, it is logical to conclude that. Pause if you need more time. Remember to go back into the text and highlight where you found your text evidence. Make sure you have all of your answers marked before you move on. Cassandra's reaction to Apollo's gift of foresight suggests that she felt enraged. If she was spitting in his face, I would definitely say she was pretty mad. Number 2, why was Apollo's gift such a burden to Cassandra? She could not change the outcome by telling people. Notice that it says, from that time on, Cassandra could see the future, but no one believed a thing she said. Imagine knowing horrible things would happen, and no one would believe you. The story of Apollo and Cassandra suggests that the Greek gods were commonly worshipped at their temples. Notice it says each temple in ancient Greece was dedicated to only one god. Because the Greeks worshipped many gods, there were many great temples in ancient Greece. Every town had several temples. For number 4, from the whole story, it is logical to conclude that Cassandra did not know what she was getting herself into when she took Apollo's deal. Especially since, first of all, she didn't hesitate when she took it. And then, when no one would believe her, again, she was unable to change the course of what would happen. Thanks for joining me today. I hope now you can draw accurate conclusions and inferences from the text, and I hope that you're able to support your answers with inferences from several pieces of evidence of the text.